Hi everyone! October is behind us now, and in the art world, it's a time for challenges. Last year I did Cringetober. It was my first time doing a big, month-long challenge, and I had a lot of fun. This year I did it again. Here is this year's list, made by iCry Inc. Let's not waste any time and just get into it. There's a lot to talk about. Day 1 is Overpowered. I had to think a little bit about this. In the end, I decided to draw my character Elsa, of course. I have a full video dedicated to her, so you can watch it to get to know her better. I imagine this is her near the end of the story. She's lost everything she cares about and she doesn't care about holding her power back anymore. She's just full of anger and desperation. I'll just leave it at that. I have a rough idea for the ending, but I don't want to spoil it. I already spoil a lot in my videos. The background is inspired by the summer Picrew died. I tried to do dramatic lighting here, but I don't know. I had a reference, but it just wasn't working. This could be better, but not too bad for day 1. Day 2, Weird Colors. The point here is to experiment with colors, use a palette you've never used before or that looks weird. I don't think my colors are anything crazy, they're pretty neutral, so for this I went for a super bright and saturated palette. I find it very cool when people use colors like that, and they use them for everything, including line art. I've tried doing something like that in the past, but it was either a one-off thing or I just did not like the result. For this I drew my character Tamutsu. There's some lore about him in these videos if you're curious. He dresses in a very cute looking style, but he himself is a bit scary. I had fun with this, and now I kinda wish I did a full body instead of a bust. Maybe I'll do something like that in the future. Next is Chibi art. It refers to a style with really exaggerated proportions, usually a small body with a big head, big eyes, tiny nose. They often have minimal detail as well. I like to draw like that sometimes, but my chibis are more geometrical, I guess. I like to use that style when planning out an outfit, for example. I drew my character Iris for this, but just the chibi felt a bit boring to me, so I added a detailed bust next to it. Iris doesn't really have any lore right now. She's Daisy's younger sister. She's a sweetie and a cutie pie, and I love drawing her, and I love how this turned out. Now let's get to something that isn't a bust. Moving on to Persona, and this was my chance to redeem myself. Last year's list also had this, and this is what I drew for that. Yeah, not very good. I didn't even post it. So this year I locked in. I still drew a bunny, but made it look more like myself. I also did no line art here for a softer look. I haven't done that in a while. I think this is so much better. I really didn't know what I was doing with the old one. Day 5 is favorite cliche. Cliche can refer to a saying, but in this case it refers to popular tropes in media. Enemies to lovers, found family, stuff like that. I chose the latter. I love found family in media. It's always so interesting and heartwarming. It shows that true family doesn't have to be blood related. For this, I drew my characters Mingyu, Bonnie, her mom Cassandra, and grandma Beatrice. This is when Mingyu got kicked out of his house because of his sexuality, and Cassandra invited him to stay without hesitation. Mingyu and Bonnie grew up together, so he's always been kind of like a second child. Cassandra also hoped that the two of them might date someday, but that didn't quite work out. He lived with them for a few months over the summer, and then moved to a college dorm as soon as he could. He didn't want to burden them, but they never thought of him that way anyway. He really enjoyed that time, looks back on it fondly, and he's always welcome back. On this drawing they are eating together, probably having breakfast because Beatrice has her curlers in and some morning coffee. I always love drawing Cassandra's house. Everything is mismatched because she gets a lot of stuff from yard sales, thrift stores, maybe steals it sometimes. I also love reusing the backgrounds I drew for this animatic. Watch it now! Okay, maybe after this video. But I drew a few rooms for it and they really come in handy. I had a lot of fun drawing this one. Next is musical. I'm not really a musical person, so I had to think about this one. In the end, I decided to appreciate my people and draw MC from the Ukrainian Cabaret. Cabaret is an American musical that first opened on Broadway in November 1966. It's about the rise of fascism in 1930s Germany and how people are ignoring it. At least that's what I've gathered. I haven't actually watched it yet. The Ukrainian version went pretty viral on TikTok, especially the actor playing MC. His name is Ilya Choporov, and the theater is Молодий Театр, or Young Theater, in Kyiv. It makes me happy that something from my country is appreciated outside of it, and Ilya does an amazing job from what I've seen. He's very animated, expressive, his voice is amazing, the makeup looks great, and it's all very captivating. The rest of the cast does an amazing job as well. From the bits and pieces I've seen, it's clear that the play is put together very well and everyone is very passionate about their performance. Maybe someday I will get to see it in person. That would be awesome. Next is anime. There is a video by the creator of Cringetober explaining the prompts, and for this one I think you are supposed to draw in an anime style, but I kind of forgot about that and just did anime fan art. Oops. A few years ago I really liked watching anime, but I kind of stopped at some point. I don't know why. But as of recent, I have been really into the Summer Hikaru Diet, since it got an animated adaptation. It's really good, I really like it, so I drew Yoshiki and Hikaru for this. Not much else to say here, the patterns on Hikaru's side were fun to do. Day 8 is core aesthetic. Just draw something in an aesthetic you like. I chose Coquette and my character Susie. You can find her lore in these videos. She's a magical girl, but what's important here is that her style is coquette. She wears pink, white with some brown accents, lots of lace and bows. Everything is very cute and feminine. She also has super long hair and puts it in cute hairstyles. The coloring here is a bit different from how I usually do it. I made the colors lighter and didn't do any rendering outside of some airbrushing. I wanted this to kind of look like a gift card, but in universe it's probably merch or something like that. I like this. Next is Indie Game. Indie Game is a game created by an individual or a smaller development team without financial and technical support from big companies. Despite that, there are still many incredibly successful indie games. Undertale, Deltarune, Cuphead, Terraria, Five Nights at Freddy's. I can go on and on. For this drawing I chose Stardew Valley. It's a very cute and fun farming simulator created by Concerned Ape in 2016. I love it so much. The art style, the music, the overall vibe are so good. And for me personally, there's a really good balance between freedom, plot, and waiting time. I usually don't play farming games for too long because they often have ads, include real-life waiting time, or you can't really do much outside of set missions and tasks. In Stardew Valley, you can do pretty much whatever you want, build relationships and start a family, but also follow the plot to unlock a lot of new stuff. It can be a bit overwhelming for first-time players though. I remember being so lost on my first farm, so my progress was pretty slow. But on that farm I am married to Penny, we have 2 kids, and I'm just living out my gay farm life. To talk about the drawing, I tried to do something a little different with the coloring, but I don't know. It took forever and I'm not entirely satisfied with the result. Could be better, but it's fine. Moving on to unnecessarily complex design. I was so excited for this. For this prompt, you have to draw the most detailed, overloaded, as animation unfriendly design as possible. I drew Cassandra and went all out on her outfit. Her style is so fun for me to draw, but I usually don't have time or energy to make it as complex as I would like to. I'm still not sure if it has a specific name. Like with furniture and utensils, she gets her clothes from a bunch of different places. Thrift stores, yard sales, she makes some of her clothes herself, or steals it again. The colors are all over the place, the patterns clash, it's awesome. I did this in layers. This way it was easier for me to keep track of everything, and it was very fitting since that's kind of how she puts her outfits together, just throws things on top of each other. I had a lot of fun with this piece, and it's definitely one of my favorites out of this entire video. I also saved the base, so I might draw a few more of her outfits. Day 11 is crossover. I remember this meme, and it got turned into a trend where you draw two random characters with that dialogue. I knew I wanted to draw Bonnie for this, and for the second character I went to my friend and without any context asked him to give me a random character. He gave me Homelander, so that's what I did. This was very quick, but I enjoyed it. It's nice to do something silly and stupid every once in a while. Next is Vocaloid. Vocaloid is a singing voice synthesizer. It uses voice banks, and you can make songs with it if you can't sing or don't have the voice you want for the song. I don't know much about Vocaloids. I know Hatsune Miku, so I drew her. Basic, but it is what it is. I tried to make the face more anime looking, and the coloring was again a bit different for me. In the end, I don't hate this piece, but I could have done more. Animal features. Not a fully anthropomorphic character, but one that has some animal features. I drew my character Thaddeus that definitely didn't originate from Dream SMP. Okay, maybe he did. Thaddeus is a mechanic. He likes building stuff, but it usually doesn't end well. His inventions usually catch on fire or even blow up, so now he's covered in scars. He's kind of like an older brother to Theodore, a human child that tried to steal from him one day. But I imagine Thaddeus never actually uses his name, probably memory issues from hitting his head a lot. He calls him child, baby, bald baby, little devil, champ, stinker, toe, bug eater, something like that. Not much else to say about this one. I need to draw these characters more. I always say it, but I never actually do it. Next is First OC, the first character you ever made. I had to really reach into the deepest crevices of my brain for this. Now, I'm not sure if it was my first character, and I don't have any art from that time, but I remember when I was little I made a Minecraft character for myself. It wasn't supposed to be a persona, but she was wearing my favorite color and had my hair color, but it's definitely just a character and not me. She was kind of emo, really cool and strong of course, carried an axe and was the best survivor. Mind you, I didn't even play Minecraft. And like I said, I don't have any of the art from that time, so this is purely from memory. I remember her wearing a purple cap, an off-the-shoulder shirt, shorts, one purple and one striped sock, and Converse. This felt really nostalgic, honestly. The end result kind of looks like my other character, Megan. That's interesting. To spice this up even more, I actually made this character into a Minecraft skin, which also brought back memories. Since I didn't have Minecraft back then, I had to use online Minecraft skin editors, and I had a lot of fun with them. For this, I went on Blockbench. You can choose the Minecraft skin model and edit it on there pretty easily. Now, I'm not good at making really nice Minecraft skins, so it looks a bit amateurish, but I feel like that's pretty authentic. This is probably how I looked when I was a kid too. Moving on to first attempt. For this, you are supposed to try a medium or technique you've never tried before. At first, I wanted to try 3D modeling. I downloaded Nomad Sculpt, and where do I start? For my first ever attempt, I decided to model Bunny's face. The most beginner-friendly thing to do. As you can imagine, it was a mess. I was lost, overwhelmed, a bit annoyed because I was doing this on my phone and there wasn't much room. It was bad. Real bad. Then, after clicking around, I found some presets, including a head model, so I tried to go off of that. That was much easier, but still wasn't super successful. I think I kind of managed with the features, but just couldn't figure out how to paint the model. I didn't even try to do the hair, so here is the result, I guess. I don't think 3D modeling is for me, guys. So since that was a complete failure, I tried photo bashing, and that went much better. As the name suggests, photo bashing is when you take a bunch of photos and bash them together. I decided to do my warmed up characters, since I haven't really done anything with them in a very long time. This was so fun. I like looking for photos, mashing them together was also really cool, though hard at times. The result is so creepy looking, I love it. Tasha in particular looks crazy. I had to bash her together the most out of all characters, and it really adds to the uncanny look. Oliver could look a little better. He was the first one I did, so there was some trial and error. Tyler looks weirdly normal. Maybe their head is a bit too big. Cat looks a little scary, mostly the eyes. And Nicole actually got a bit of a makeover. I've wanted to redesign her for a while. This went a lot better than the 3D modeling. Next is Reclaimed Insecurity. I couldn't really think of something that I used to be insecure about and have fully reclaimed. Body image is still a big issue for me, so I wanted to draw myself and make it look as accurate as I can. I find that including my insecurities in art genuinely helps me feel better about them. I've also been trying to put together more interesting outfits. That's also something that I'm not very confident in. The weather was so hot for so long, and I don't do well with heat, so I can only wear a shirt and jeans. But now it's much colder, so I can finally layer and actually have fun with my clothes. I don't think the drawing turned out bad, but I was kind of tired that day, so the coloring of the clothes is really lazy. Day 17, Self-Ship or OC x Canon. It's when you draw ship art of yourself with your favorite character, or create a new OC specifically to ship with said character. This seems fun, though I've never really done it. I decided to draw Claudia from Interview with a Vampire, my Shayla, and make her a girlfriend. I love her with Madeline, don't get me wrong, but for a challenge, why not? Her name is Callista, or Callie, and I imagine her and Claudia met in Paris before she met Madeline. This relationship didn't last long, it was more of a situationship if anything. Callie is also a vampire and loves to paint. And yeah, that's pretty much all I got. I like the drawing, and this was interesting to do. Moving on to day 18, Alternate Universe, or AU for short. You just take a story or characters and put a twist on it. I took my The Witchosaurus characters and put them in a zombie apocalypse. It's pretty much The Walking Dead, because I'm a big The Walking Dead fan. Ben is still dead. Sorry. Elsa would definitely keep him though. She would talk to him, try to feed him. She's one of those. But before that, her, Ben, Dan, and Daisy survived together. Maybe they got in a particularly sticky situation, then escaped, leaving the others behind. Then Daisy got separated, leaving just Elsa and Ben. Daisy is still angry at Dan. She thinks that he just left them all behind on purpose. Bonnie and Mingyu survive together as a duo. Mingyu is scared, but does what needs to be done. Bonnie is unusually calm. Sam is part of a big community. She's one of the medics. She takes care of everyone the best she can and stays in good spirit. And maybe the other characters join the community at some point. It was interesting to think about how they will look in the apocalypse. Some of them have dyed hair, piercings, tattoos, wear makeup, but most likely that won't be available in the literal apocalypse. Same for cool alternative clothes. I might work on this more in the future. This was fun. Next is meme redraw. I love doing this. You just take a meme and draw your character over it, and I did a bunch of these. The first few are of Bonnie as a baby. That wasn't really planned, but when looking for good memes to redraw, I kept stumbling across baby ones. Bonnie was a very nonchalant baby, and I imagine Cassandra would take really stupid photos of her. Then I also did a bunch of text message memes. These are a lot easier and quicker, just put the characters that are texting on the sides and that's about it. Like I said, I really like doing this every once in a while. This also unironically helps flesh out my characters' personalities. Some plot points came from memes. So yeah, this is really fun, and I recommend trying this out if you haven't. Next on the list is Picrew. Kind of vague for a drawing prompt, so I played around with it. Picrew or Picrew.me is a website with character makers. If you didn't know, I actually made 3 Picrews that were kind of successful. I still get comments from people asking if I made them, and yes, I did. Though they're not perfect and the outfit one isn't finished. So, I decided to create a character using these 2 makers. This one for the appearance, and this one for the outfit. But I couldn't just randomize them, because it usually gives you something like this. So instead I used a number generator. Let's say I want to choose an eye shape. I count how many options there are, put that number in the generator, and whatever number I get is the option I choose. Then I did the same for the eye color. For some categories like facial piercings or accessories, I first did a yes or no. I put the number 2 in the generator. 1 means yes, 2 means no. I hope that makes sense. This way it's still random, but doesn't look like a cluttered mess. The result is interesting. Not something I would go for, but let's just roll with it. Then I did the same thing for the outfit. I skipped all the body modifications and went straight to clothing. I also want to kind of address some criticism this specific picture got. I do think I added the explanation in the picture itself, but a lot of people don't read that. The biggest critique was that there are just 2 body types. That's fair, and I would have loved to add at least 1 more, but there are limitations on the website itself. There is a limit on how many items you can add. Everything that's here counts as an item, so every clothing piece, every hair piece, every body part, all that. I think at that time the limit was 750, but it might have changed. I haven't worked on this picture in a very long time. Even though 750 seems like a lot, it adds up very quickly, especially in an outfit maker. I had to double most of the pieces to fit both body types. Now imagine if there was just even 1 more body type. I would have to double the clothing a 3rd time. I would be lucky to fit all that in the item limit, but most likely I would have to cut down on the clothes significantly. So I basically had to choose between having more body types or more clothing options. Since this is an outfit maker, I chose the clothes. This brings me to another critique, that the difference between the 2 available body types is really big. Since I had to settle for just 2 body types, I wanted to make them noticeably different.
I feel like that makes more sense than making them slightly different. Ideally, I would have liked to add a body that's kind of in between the two, but I already explained why I couldn't. And lastly, I had to get rid of a few functions. When I first released the Picrew, you could make a character topless if you wanted to. Nothing in SFW, of course. I mean, these are just circles and rectangles. At some point, the Picrew got taken down because of nudity, and the solution they gave me is to remove that function altogether, so I did. Again, it's something that I would prefer to keep, but I have to follow the rules. That was a lot of talking. Here's what I'm gonna be working with. Interesting. Very interesting. I'm not following these references completely. I adjusted the color scheme a little bit to make it more uniform. If I just pick the colors directly, it's going to look like absolute trash. I just know it, so forgive me. I have not worked on my Picrews in a very long time, at least a year. I've just been so much more focused on YouTube and commissions and other stuff, but I remember having a lot of fun making them. It was very time consuming, but also satisfying. I got a lot of item suggestions from you guys, so it was teamwork, in a way. And even though my Picrews aren't perfect, they still got a lot of support, which I really appreciate. To this day, people recognize me from my Picrews, which is also very cool. Picrew has a bit of a bad reputation. A lot of the popular makers don't have a lot of options, especially when it comes to skin tones. It's kind of a meme that Picrew skin tones are paper white, gray, brown, and like green or something. I really did not want to do that with my work. I tried to put a lot of different options so a lot of people can feel represented, though there are limits on the website. And if you decide to make a Picrew, I do recommend adding more than 3 options in there. It just logically makes sense that if there are more possibilities, more people will use it, maybe even multiple times. I don't know if I will make any more Picrews. Like I said, it's very time consuming, but maybe something like a straightforward portrait maker would be easier to put together. Who knows? This section got a lot longer than I expected. Anyway, I think I managed to make a half-decent looking character out of what I got. It's not a design I would usually make, but it was an interesting exercise. Next is Animatic. Oh boy, this was a big one. Animatic is basically an unfinished animation or storyboards. They're very popular, and I have made some in the past. This time I decided to do something short and not too complex so I can hopefully finish it in one day. Silly me. Around that time I got an idea to basically compare my 2 stories, Warmed Up and The Witch's Sorrows. Warmed Up is a slice of life, very casual. There is some serious stuff here and there, but for the most part, it's just about character relationships and them living their day-to-day life. The Witch's Sorrows, on the other hand, is a lot more dramatic and complex. There's magic, death, resurrection, trauma, toxic relationships, fighting, all of that. Animatics are often sketches, but I wanted mine to look more neat, so I did line art. That was my downfall. If I left it at sketches, I probably would have finished this in a day. The sketches were really messy though, and you wouldn't be able to tell what's going on. I traced a lot of stuff from my references. I'm sorry, I wanted to save as much time as possible. This was also my chance to properly draw Nicole's updated design. She felt really bland and boring to me, and I never really had a specific style for her in mind. I gave her a new haircut, fully red hair, changed her face a little bit, made her chubbier, and gave her a more interesting style. I came across tights and shorts combos that will become a staple for Nicole. I also drew a few The Witch's Sorrow scenes that I haven't drawn yet. There are some simple animations here and there as well. I like adding that. In total, this took me about 2 days to draw. Then I went on InShot and edited it all together. You can find the full thing on my channel. Go watch it. Day 22 is art style experiment. Draw in a way you usually wouldn't. Some time ago there was an evil art style trend where you draw an opposite of your style basically. I never hopped on it, but better late than never. I found a drawing of Bunny that I like and went to town. It was a bit difficult for me to pinpoint the unique traits of my style because I don't really think about that. First thing I did is exaggerate the proportions. I usually go for more realistic proportions, to the best of my ability. The most I do is exaggerate the silhouette through clothing. Next, I made the line art a lot more angular. I even used the polyline tool so the lines are completely straight. I usually go for softer and more fluid shapes. And I did not add a thicker outline afterwards. That hurt. The colors are more saturated, there's no blushing, shading, or highlights. This felt really weird, but kind of interesting, I guess. Next is Soulmates. I was excited for this one. I made this drawing based on the red string theory. Basically, it's a Chinese folklore metaphor about an invisible red string connecting people who are soulmates. It's a very nice visual. The characters I'm using are Cassandra and Celine, Dan's and Ben's mom. This is one of the plotlines that came from a meme, this one specifically. Cassandra and Celine dated back when they were in college. They were madly in love, but eventually broke up. Cassandra is a witch, and every witch has to give birth to a daughter and pass down the powers to her. Because of that, Cassandra made the painful decision to break up. Celine was heartbroken and had a lot of anger towards Cassandra for years. Later, they both got married. Cassandra married her old high school friend, got pregnant, and had Bonnie. Shortly after, she found out that he has been cheating on her for months, and they separated. It was hard, but Beatrice was always there for her. Celine married the town's future chief of police. She wasn't very interested in starting a family. In fact, she still wasn't fully over Cassandra, but she pushed those feelings inside. She just wanted that perfect life. Then she had 2 twin boys, and that was the happiest day of her life. Celine's husband is a witch hunter. All the men in their family are taught to sniff out witches and get rid of them. He was teaching both Dan and Ben while keeping it a secret from Celine. In his eyes, women don't have to know about this. When Ben died at 14, Celine's world shattered. That was her first baby. She fell into a very deep depression. She couldn't even look at Dan for a while, then she couldn't share the bed with her husband and moved to a separate bedroom. It took a very long time for her to become relatively functional. Then her husband helped her open a restaurant, her lifelong dream. That helped, but the marriage was slowly becoming more and more distant. Years later, Dan comes to Bonnie's house. Cassandra immediately recognizes him, or rather, his face. So she asks about his mom, finds out that it is in fact Celine, she's still in town, and owns a restaurant. Soon after, Cassandra finds her. It was their first time seeing each other in over 20 years. It was a little awkward. Celine was clearly still very upset and a bit hostile, but gave Cassandra a free cup of coffee anyway. They keep bumping into each other, and they get closer each time. One time, while a bit drunk, Celine spills all her problems onto Cassandra. How her first son actually passed away, she doesn't feel happy, how her husband is probably cheating on her, but she doesn't even care. It all ends in a kiss, and the next morning Celine is very embarrassed. Afterwards, there were more situations like that, where there's clearly tension and old feelings coming up. It takes a while, but eventually Celine does divorce her husband and gets back with Cassandra. They will be endgame, I will say that. I love them. I love this part of the plot. When I got the idea, I was just obsessed. The doomed, decades-old romance. On top of that, one is a witch, the other is married to a witch hunter. I mean, come on. Moving on to character redesign, I drew Nicole's new design in full color, in its full glory. Like I mentioned, I've wanted to redesign her for a while, but just never had the time to do that. Her old design and personality felt so bland to me, to the point I didn't even really want to draw her. And she's supposed to be the main character, so that's crazy. She's not supposed to be a self-insert, but a lot of her personality traits are heavily inspired by me, especially when I was in college. She struggles with anxiety, and when meeting new people, she's very quiet and held back. Once she gets to know you better, she lets her personality shine through. That was me in college. I barely talked, everyone thought I was so quiet and serious or even angry. But I'm not. I can be loud and whimsical and yap on and on. I mean, just look at the length of this video. It's literally this.
Hey, yo, Corey, real talk, bro. Why are you so quiet? Like, you never say nothing when you're around us. Why is that? Because I don't like you guys.
Now I'm a lot more comfortable when meeting new people. At least I think so. But Nicole is still anxious and quiet at first. I also had a big problem with her fashion sense. I used to draw her in simple black hoodies and baggy pants. It's not bad, but got really boring for me. Now the staple of her style is jean shorts combined with tights. I love the look, and none of my other characters have that. I also made her chubbier for a little more variety, and gave her fully red hair. Her old hair started to annoy me a little bit. Now she kind of looks like Bonnie's cousin from a different universe. I love these kind of designs, I can't help it. But she definitely looks much, much better now. I'm glad I finally did this. Next is fake game screenshot. I felt ambitious that day. I wanted to make this look like a dating sim, and instead of doing one character, I did the whole main cast of The Witch of Sorrows, plus Mingu's sister. Surprisingly though, I finished these in about a day. If I started in the morning, I probably would have been done by evening. I reused the background from the Animatic prompt. Reduce, reuse, all that. It was fun to think of responses the characters would give, disregarding the relationships they have in the story. And I try to give them poses that maybe don't fully match the emotions. In a lot of dating sims, the characters have one pose and only their expressions change. I try to kind of replicate that with some of these. Overall, this was fun and I'm happy with the result, but it did take a lot of my energy, so for the next few pieces I cut some corners. Moving on to guilty pleasure media. Media that's considered bad by most people, but you just can't help but to love it. For me, it's the 2004 Catwoman movie. Is it objectively a bad movie? Yeah, there are lots of cringy scenes, the CGI is outdated, and the editing of the fight scenes is impossible to follow. There's a cut literally every second, but I just love it. I remember seeing it on TV as a kid, and something just snapped, something inside of me. I absolutely loved it, and I actually rewatched it a couple days before drawing this. Not because of the challenge, but for my own enjoyment. I still loved it. And personally, I think Patience and the villain lady should have just kissed and made up. Next is Gijinka, or a humanization. It's when you take something or someone that isn't human and draw it as a human. I decided to revisit this piece of Main 6 from My Little Pony. I made it back in 2022 and I hate it. Not only do I hate how it looks, it also brings not very good memories. It got me a lot of hate. Some was correct in hindsight, a lot of it was just racism and fatphobia. I now agree that I had really bad same-face syndrome back then. The only one that's kind of different is Pinky because her eyes are round. though a lot of people were really rude about it and that made me really defensive. I don't know what I was doing with their expressions. Half of them look angry, but I still stand by the ethnicities I gave them. That's what most of the hate was about. I got a lot of just straight up racist comments, especially about Pinky and Rarity. I wonder why. I don't know what it is about some My Little Pony fans, a show about friendship and kindness, but they just despise any kind of diversity in fan art. I never said that my versions are canon or correct. In the past, I would always add disclaimers that these are just headcanons and all that. It's not that serious. None of the main 6 even have canon ethnicities. You can literally do whatever you want. And if you don't like someone's takes, that's fine, you can just keep scrolling. But instead, I always see arguments, no matter what the fan art looks like. Even if someone uses the show colors or makes them all white, the comments are, "Finally, a normal version." When I posted the new piece on TikTok, just a few hours in, I started getting the same hateful comments. Just, what is happening? Why is this a thing? Anyway, despite all of that, I am happy with the new designs. I got a lot better at drawing different faces, expressions, and bodies. I am especially happy with Applejack and Pinky. Before this, I couldn't really figure out how I wanted Applejack to look, but now it's exactly how she looks in my head. I also gave Pinky and Rarity skin tones with pink and purple undertones. It looks really cool, I think. I also did a pony color version because why not? I didn't render them though because I didn't have time, unfortunately. I'm happy with my progress and this was fun to do. Kids show. I chose Bluey because I love that show and I haven't drawn the characters in a very long time. Even though Bluey is made for kids, it can be mature and emotional at times. The Aunt Brandy episode still makes me so emotional. The characters are very relatable as well. There are different family dynamics, different situations that both kids and adults can learn from, and it's also just very cute. I had a lot of fun making the human versions for the characters. I even made videos about it. I wanted them to look like normal people, no alternative fashion, none of that, just regular people. Some of the designs are inspired by my own relatives or people I've seen in my life. Making Bluey art also motivated me to learn how to draw children. It took me a very long time, but I think now I'm very comfortable with it, and they actually look like kids. Though my designs also got some hate, especially Bluey because apparently she looks like a boy. I genuinely do not see it. Not to mention that the original design doesn't have any stereotypical feminine features. I wanted to reflect that. Anyway, I also did not render these because I didn't have the energy for that, but I'm still very happy with how they turned out. We're almost there. Next is Clown. For this, I drew my character Penny from my Vampire Clown story. I made a full video about it if you're curious. Penny is a contortionist, so of course I drew her in a crazy pose. That's always fun. I actually drew this pretty quickly, but I really like the result. This one might be one of my favorites as well. Everything just came together really well. Moving on to Creepypasta. Creepypasta is a scary internet story pretty much. A creepy copypasta. I'm gonna be real, I was tired and just wanted to get this done, so I quickly scribbled Jeff the Killer. It's not great, it's nothing fancy, took me maybe 10 minutes, but it is what it is. Now let's get to the final prompt. Time for Halloween! I decided to redraw this piece I did last year. I tried to give it a little more character, make it a little more fluid. The old one isn't bad, though Elsa's facial anatomy is a little crazy. Over the course of the year, my facial anatomy got a little more realistic, I think. Now Elsa is wearing a corny witch costume, kissing a pumpkin that looks like Ben, she stabbed a pumpkin that looks like Bonnie. The window theme is relatively the same, The decorations are the same, but I also added a burning stake behind her. Get it? Because she's a witch. In the end, this turned out pretty good. I like it, very Halloween-y, and I think this is a nice way to end this challenge. This was a lot, but I still had so much fun. I actually finished this a little bit in advance. With challenges like this, I find it a lot easier to do it at my own pace. If I feel like doing multiple prompts in a day, I will do that. And if I'm too busy or just don't feel like drawing that day, I will do that as well. I don't do well with a drawing per day. Some pieces weren't that successful, others are my favorite drawings I've made lately. This also helped me get out of my comfort zone. I drew something that's not just my characters. I mean, a lot of it is still my characters, but, you know. Sometimes it's nice to have a list in front of you, so you know what you'll draw tomorrow and the day after that. I really enjoyed this year's list, and hopefully I'll be able to do it next year as well. This was great. But this is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, hope you enjoyed it. Like, comment, subscribe, all that. Check out my other socials, they'll be on the screen and in the description. Stay safe, and I'll see you in another video. Bye.